Fear of death is now the modus operandi of politics. That's the starkest representation of the modern state that we will find in the political philosophical literature. And what is noteworthy about it is the fact that Hobbes's justification of sovereignty in all of its stark logical character has become precisely the kind of sovereignty that Milbank was talking about. Power over life and death. And the jealousy of that prerogative. And what's even more surprising, and what is the basis of what I want to talk about today, is that the Christian church has by and large embraced Hobbes's view of the sovereign. It has done so in the context of the great challenges that Christianity has always faced, namely its relationship with the culture in which it finds itself. There have been at least 3 great moments in that relationship search in which Christianity has been tested. In all 3 instances, Christianity was the dominant religion, or striving to become the dominant religion. And in all 3 instances, it failed the test. The first is Rome. Some would argue that Christianity loses its soul when it makes its compromise with the Roman Empire and becomes the official church. The official church of the sovereign. It loses its distinctiveness and it begins the process of purifying the faith by executing heretics and infidels. The second great challenge was Nazi Germany. And here the church was the official state religion of the sovereign state. And yet those who refused to pledge allegiance to it and to the state and to its leader were silenced, figuratively and literally. We're going to come back to Nazi Germany in a moment because there's a figure in that context that's particularly relevant to us today. Third, and what is most compelling example, I think, of this failure on the part of the church to meet the challenges of the prevailing culture is the United States. How has the church failed? Well, you know the litany, by failing to listen to its prophetic voices on slavery, on human rights, on the plight of women, on war, on capitalism, on prayer in public places, on Cuba, on Iraq, on Palestine, just to mention a few. It's no wonder that we have been chastised for being so preoccupied with who should be ordained, whether the Bible is literally true or not, and who can be married, while the important issues facing the church are left unanswered and unattended. Moreover, not only have we made our peace with the sovereign, we have succumbed to the trappings of patriotism. We have allowed the state to become our new sovereign, and the worship of that sovereign our new religion. That's what I meant by the new paganism, the new gods. We now worship, in this instance, the God of the state. It may be just as accurate, as I mentioned earlier, it may be just as accurate to say that we have become a new theocracy, while at the same time decrying all other theocracies around us. There is an accompaniment to this worship of the sovereign that makes it even more forgetful of fundamental Christian theology. And that is what has come to be known as American exceptionalism. It's rooted, or its origins are rooted in our past, probably first in that famous sermon given by John Winthrop on the good ship Arbella, as he and his fellow colonists were bound for the new America. This sermon was given around 1630, entitled A Model of Christian Charity. And you know the language of some of it. I quote, "For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us." Those are grand words. What we forget is the sentence that follows them. so that if we deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. The city on the hill began this notion of American exceptionalism. We forget that just 6 short years later, a war party from that same Massachusetts colony would engage in what was called the Mystic Massacre. They would surround a Pequot compound and set it ablaze, killing all of the inhabitants therein, anywhere from 400 to 700, mostly women and children because the warriors were out fighting. And they justified this act as the vengeance of a righteous people. Quote, "Thus did the Lord judge among the heathens, filling Mystic with dead bodies." This began a very long path of genocide against Native Americans that would continue for the next 250 years. It's worth noting, by the way, that among those so-called heathens that accompanied Captain John Mason in his attacks on the Pequot were the Narragansett, who left the alliance after Mystic because they thought it was a barbaric form of warfare. Ironic, isn't it? The notion of a special mission became a justification for violent aggression, and thus did they and we forget the fundamental tenet of the Christian faith we profess, which is reinforced by the Genesis narrative, that we are all sinners, capable of horrible acts of destruction. Indeed, the path of American exceptionalism has shielded that truth from us well into now the 21st century. You hear politicians again and again and again state that we just don't do those things. But we are human, and we do. The consequences of our worship of ourselves and the mission we are entitled to pursue is that we consider ourselves exempt from the legal and moral standards accepted by others. There's a long list of such self-exemptions. Refusal to sign the Kyoto Treaty, for example, regulating pollution of the environment. The refusal to strengthen the Convention on Biological Weapons. The failure to join the 100 or more nations that have agreed to ban landmines, in spite of the appalling statistics about amputations performed on children mutilated by them. The refusal to ban the use of napalm and cluster bombs. The refusal to embrace the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And the insistence that we are not to be subjected, as are other countries, to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So, to summarize, if paganism is to be defined as polytheism, or a polytheistic religion, we are the new pagans. We have come to worship the state and its sovereignty. We have come to worship the rituals of the state. And we have come to worship ourselves as those who have the special mission of our governments. Now, there are other gods we worship as well, and there's not time today to develop the litany, but we worship the free market and the gospel of wealth. Watch TV, you'll see how many preachers engage in that. Adam Smith has come to be our patron saint, or moral priest. And we worship ourselves as the self-guardians of freedom and democracy in the world, the self-appointed guardians of freedom and democracy. Well, let me develop for a moment one of the major reasons for our lapsing into this form of idolatry. Here I'm borrowing heavily from a prominent social ethicist of the middle 20th century, Reinhold Niebuhr. The self, you and I, we are social creatures.